This video is about a Deenkee Instant Pot. I got this back when I got the vacuum from them, and I have to tell you that we've been using that now for a couple of months with no problem. We love it. Battery's still good and everything works good. And at the time, they offered me an Instant Pot to try out too. So my wife always wanted to try one, and she's kind of afraid to use a pressure cooker that we have for the gas stove for on her own and stuff like that. So I figured this would be a good way to try one out and see what we think of it. So it arrived, surprisingly, it arrived in good shipping, in good condition, after shipping with UPS, and it was really packed well. It's a pressure pot. It has a nice glass lid there for when you use it like a slow cooker. This thing can be used for so many different types of cooking, it looks like. And I've never used one before. This is the first for me, so I'll just show you. We're in the learning stage now and what we think about it. And there's the pot. It's really the sharp pot. It matches everything on our counter and stuff with all the the black and the stainless steel, and it does look really nice. And fit and finish of it was really nice. And pretty much that's what it looks like. The top kind of spins, and you can flip it up like that and keep it attached. And it had all the rest of the parts packed inside there. Surprisingly, they give you an extra seal too, which was one of my concerns if a seal should ever go, which usually they don't. But would it be hard to get another one? And looks like you're all set here. It comes with a little measuring cup and a real dinky spoon. Turns out it's a little bit short for cooking, and it also comes with a baking rack that can go in there and be used to bake, and a couple nice little silicone finger grips there to protect your fingers. Kind of cool. They actually reminded me of the old lamb chop years ago, but they look like they're going to work good, and they feel like they're well made. The only assembly you have to do is it comes with a handle, which I really don't, know if there's a need for it or not. But it just snaps in place. So that was just easy to snap in, and it's all set. You can pick it up and carry it if you want. And it's got a nice cord on it. Everything really really seems to be well made. And then you can just here, let's look at there it is, the seal. You can see the seal, actually, it's just like a regular pressure cooker seal that goes right in the lid there. And it's got pretty much all the same safety features and stuff as a standard pressure cooker. So, I think it should be safe. And my wife actually says she'll feel comfortable using it. Plus, that top there, you can just spin it right off and, use it as a kind of like a crock pot or slow cooker or whatnot. We've only tried one recipe in it so far, but the cooking vessel there is really well made. It's made out of a high quality stainless steel, and it spreads the heat very evenly, we found out, and it's very easy to clean up. And then there's a little cup to catch the drips with whenever you're dealing with a pressure cooker, you always have a lot of steam, and you do get a lot of drips. So that's a nice little feature that goes on the back. And the control panel is there, but it was a little bit confusing to me at first. And then, by the time I used it the first time, I did figure out that, what it was. And you can see it's ETL approved and FDA approved. So the ETL means it should be really safe electrically. So, I'm glad to see that they went all through all that approval. It comes with a nice little recipe book, and this is the recipe we tried out first. We had to wait for it to get a little cooler out so we could enjoy it, and it did get cooler. So just kind of followed the recipe as they put it in the book there. All the ingredients were really easy to follow because they, it's like 8 ounces of macaroni, so we just weighed that out, and some spices and a couple other things, and it called for some green peppers and red peppers and tomatoes. And you can see there the tomatoes were picked this morning in our garden, plum tomatoes, and they were all blanched and peeled, so they're ready to go. And I just drove down and picked a couple of these peppers for tonight for this. And so they're as fresh as you can get them, and just gonna peel them or just core them out, and then just go back and just try to mince them up as fine as I can. And then I picked some of these Jimmy Nardello peppers, which are pimiento type pepper. That's a really super sweet pepper that I feel will work pretty good. They're a real pain to get all the seeds out and to slice and chop and stuff, but it's worth the time, I feel, because the flavor that they do add. And then they called for onions, and of course I switched it to shallots. I kind of like the flavor of the shallots better and stuff like this, so went down and I grabbed a couple shallots that I had just picked out of the root cellar, and I'm just going to mince them up for to throw them in the pot too. So I just sped this up because I don't want you to see how long it took me to actually chop these. And then you had to, it said to put it on like a saute mode, and so I pushed that button, and then I put it on the 8 minutes that they said, and everything was blinking, and then you just have to push the start, and that little thing goes around, and it's starting to heat up there. First thing I did was added the olive oil that they call for, and then threw in the pound of ground beef that the recipe calls for. You can hear the pot just starting to get warm pretty quick, so it looks like it was going to be good. And then you see I started out with that little Deenkee spoon there, but it turned out it got a little bit hot in there after a while, so I had to change. Then it just called for a couple other spices, and while that was starting to saute up, I figured I'd just put them in a little bowl, and I think there was basil and oregano and some Spanish paprika and salt and a little bit of black pepper. So it's all right there in the recipe book. And there's some sea salt. We usually use the sea salt whenever there's salt called for in the recipe. And then there's some of the Spanish paprika there. Yeah, we really had no idea how this recipe was going to come out when we started. My wife said there's no way it'll ever be as good as my macaroni and cheese casserole that she makes with the hamburger in it and stuff. So, this was a real test. And she's standing there behind me. She really wanted to use it the first time, but I made her stand behind me and just kind of watch, because the instructions for running it weren't really that great. The recipe itself was there, but you had to add a little bit to the instructions. I tell you, if China ever gets good at writing instructions, they're going to take over the world. But so you can see it heated up nice quickly, and I was able to brown it up, and there I had to switch to a longer spoon because you can see the steam coming out. And it's just time to throw the peppers and shallots and stuff in and let that just cook for a little while. It's really nice just being able to toss it all in one pot like this. And I just mix that up pretty good, and just mixed it a couple times and let it saute up, but really did a good job at sauteing everything up there. Then I dumped in the spices when that was pretty much all starting to cook down and get a little bit soft. Really starting to smell good now too. Yeah, you can see the pot's really doing a nice job at cooking it all. Can't wait to try a pot of chili in this. And that thing, just kept going around all the time I was cooking, so it never really hit temperature or went to the timing mode or anything. And either the plum tomatoes we picked this morning and cooked and, boiled up and blanched and peeled. And now it's really starting to smell good. And then it called for some ketchup, so just threw that in there. Some beef stock went in next. And then, the last thing to go in was actually the macaroni. So I just put them all in there and just stirred it all up, and it's on to the figuring out the next step. That's where it got a little bit confusing to me. The instructions said to just, set the timer to another value and let it go into the pressure pot mode, but I put the top back on there at this point, like they said, and lock it down. And then I really couldn't change the timer or anything. So what I wound up having to do in the end was I had to actually stop the unit. And then I just put it into a like the meat mode to start it up again and get the timer to work. Cause see, no matter what I did, I couldn't, without stopping it, I couldn't reset it. So there, I stopped it, and then it went into the other mode, and then I was able to set the timer for the final cook of it. And so, I did waste some time here. It'll be quicker next time, but once I got that set, I just, hit the start, and you can see that little display just bounces around like that. And you can hear the pot start to, make noises and spit steam out there. And so it sounds like everything, kind of like a regular pressure cooker that you use on the stove, but much easier to use. And finally, that little button there popped up and sealed off the steam. And after a little while, it hit the pressure. You can see the peak came up there, and it went to the 5-minute for the countdown. And then I tried touching the stuff after it was really up to pressure, and it really didn't get hot enough to burn you. The middle section of the pot there is, a little bit warm, but the rest of it actually was comfortable to hold on to. So it's really, I feel it's really going to be a safer thing to use than the pressure pot on the stove. So then once it's done, it turns to that BB. And I waited for a while to see if it automatically released the steam, but it just went to keep warm, and it didn't. You had to, found out that I had to release it myself. And one thing I found out is don't keep it right under the cabinets when you use it next time, because when you release the steam, it just gets everything soaked. So I just held that button down and put a towel over it to kind of keep the steam off the cabinet. And that, it's just kind of like a regular pressure canner, but usually you let them cool down till you don't release the steam on them. So I just held that down, and then finally, after a while, that little thing back there will drop, and that's the lock on it. And then you'll get to a point where you can actually just unlock the cover. It unlocks the cover, and you can just twist it and open it. There it is. Everything's done. Now, at this point, I lost the next video clip where I showed adding the cheese, but I stirred in a 1.5 cups of the cheddar cheese, and there you can see the cheese is all melted in it now. So somehow the clip got corrupted, and when you shoot like this, you only get one chance. So, that part is missing, but it all, just stirred in, and that's what it looked like. So it's time to really give it the taste test and see how it came out. I was worried the noodles might be soggy or something like that, but in the end, it turned out it actually came out perfect, and we like it better than my wife's old recipe. So the Instant Pot won this time, and she was a little bit surprised, and so was I. And then even with that messy thing we did, all we had to clean up at the end was that one pot there that we just soaked a little bit and it cleaned right out. So our first experience with this thing was really pretty amazing, and we can't wait to use it for, get a better cookbook and use it for more recipes in the future. I think it's going to be a great addition to the kitchen. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe.